everyone, and welcome back to my kitchen. I am so excited about today's brand new cake recipe. I've been making cakes for such a long time. I thought it's about time I come up with my own. So for Tatyana's Torte, I'm going to be using some delicate moist coffee cake layers, crunchy hazelnut meringue layers. We're going to frost everything with the salted caramel version of my French buttercream, add some chocolate ganache, add my favorite coffee caramel macarons, and we're going to top it off with this gorgeous golden crown. I'm going to leave a link down in the video description box below for where you can pick up this gorgeous cake topper for your next special occasion. Meanwhile, let's get started on this recipe. And the first step to creating this incredible cake is making the crunchy hazelnut meringue cake layers. So these need to be prepared ahead of time. I usually like to make them the day before, let them cool completely, and then it's ready for the next day. These layers will stand at room temperature in a sealed Ziploc bags up to like 3-4 days, so you can make it ahead of time. So for the meringue layers, we'll need 4 large egg whites. Just place them into your mixer bowl. 1 cup of white granulated sugar, and 1 teaspoon of cream of tartar, and this is going to help stabilize the egg whites. So I'm first going to whisk this on medium speed for a couple minutes to help dissolve the sugar crystals, and then we'll turn it up to high speed and whisk for about 6 to 8 minutes until I get nice and stiff peaks. And these egg whites are all done, and check out how gorgeous is that. They're really glossy, they hold their shape really well, really nice stiff peaks, and now we're ready to add the rest of our ingredients. So into the meringue, I'm going to add 1/4 cup of diced hazelnuts. Drop those in. And I'm also going to add in 1/2 teaspoon of hazelnut extract. And then grab your spatula and fold in the hazelnuts and the hazelnut extract. And I'll transfer the meringue into a large pastry bag. And what I like to do is just set up the pastry bag. This is just a tall measuring cup, and I'm using an open star tip. It doesn't really matter which tip you use. And for baking the meringue, I've prepared a sheet of parchment paper, and on the back I drew 7-inch circles. So you want to draw them about 1 inch smaller than your cake pans, and then just place that onto a baking sheet. And we're just going to pipe the meringue right onto the paper. Smooth this out with a little offset spatula. And my meringue layers are ready for the oven. They're going to bake at 230 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 hours. And once they're done baking, they should sound hollow when you tap them on the top. At that point, just turn off the oven and let the meringue layers cool in the oven. They should cool completely. If you take them out and let them cool at room temperature, they're just going to crack and fall apart. So make sure you let them cool in the oven. And then once they're done cooling, you could just put them into a Ziploc bag until you're ready to make the cake. And I have some meringue layers that are already all done. I'm going to be using these for the cake today. They sound nice and hollow. I let them cool in the oven overnight, and these are going to be perfect for the cake. And now that we have the meringue layers done, we can move on to the coffee cake layers. So I'm going to be making 3 8-inch layers for this cake, and I'm going to start out with 1.5 cups of unsalted softened butter. I'm just going to place this into my mixer bowl along with 1.5 cups of white granulated sugar. I like to mix it for a good 4 to 5 minutes and scrape down the sides of the bowl pretty often to get everything mixed in there and really light and fluffy. Add in the sugar and mix everything together. And my butter is looking really good, and now I'm ready to add in my eggs. So I have 6 large eggs. Drop those right in. And I'll add in 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And I'm going to mix this again on medium speed for about 3 to 4 minutes, scraping down the sides of the bowl often until I have a really nice and smooth mixture. And while the butter and eggs and sugar are mixed together, I just warmed up 1.5 cups of whole milk in the microwave for about a minute. You want it to be just lukewarm, and then I'm going to add in 1.5 tablespoons of instant coffee. This is going to add so much incredible flavor to our coffee cake. And I'm going to pour the milk into the cake batter, but I'm not going to stir it in just yet. I'm going to mix it in along with the dry ingredients. Just pour it in there and just let it sit here. And for the dry ingredients, I have 3 cups of all-purpose flour. To that, I'm going to add in 1.5 tablespoons. It's 5.5 teaspoons of baking powder and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. You want to just mix those together so you have a nice uniform mixture. And then I'll add the flour into the cake batter. Just scoop it right in. And mix the flour into the cake batter on low to medium speed for about 30 seconds, just until the flour is incorporated. You do not want to overmix this step. And I've lined 3 8-inch cake pans with parchment paper, and I sprayed down the sides with a baking spray. And I'm going to evenly distribute the cake batter between the 3 pans, and I have my oven preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And these cake layers are ready to go into my oven. They're going to bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 minutes. Once they're done baking, I'm going to let them cool completely on a wire rack. And while they're baking and cooling, I'm going to prepare my salted caramel French buttercream. Now, I have a separate video recipe for the French buttercream. This is by far my all-time favorite buttercream. It's so silky and so smooth. I'm going to make 1.5 portions of that recipe, and instead of the chocolate that I use in that video, I'm going to add a can of dulce de leche. So I'm gonna have all those details up on my blog. There's a link down in the video description box if you want more information. All right, my cake layers have cooled completely on my wire rack. I have my salted caramel French buttercream all done, and I've actually added a teaspoon of coffee extract in here as well, so it's gonna have even a little bit of coffee flavor. And then for soaking the cake layers, I'm going to be using Kahlua coffee liqueur. I'm going to include an alcohol-free coffee syrup up on the blog if you don't wanna add any alcohol to this cake. All right, I can't wait to assemble this cake. Before I start adding the frosting, I'm going to grab a long serrated knife and I'm going to level off the tops on the cake layers. I'm gonna make sure they're nice and level for the cake. And the first step before we even add any frosting is to soak these cake layers. So I like to use a dispenser bottle, or you can use a pastry brush, and generously soak the cake layer with the Kahlua. Spread a nice generous amount of the salted caramel buttercream, and this looks so good. I love how silky smooth French buttercream is. It's going to be perfect for this recipe. And I'm going to follow with a layer of my meringue. And then for this last cake layer that I'm going to add on top, I'm actually going to soak it first and then invert it onto the top. And then I'm just going to finish this off by frosting the top and the sides. Give a nice finishing coat of frosting. And now it's time for the ganache. So I have a separate video for this, and I'm also going to include it on my blog post. Just add that over the top. And now for garnishing the top of the cake, I transferred the remaining buttercream into a pastry bag, and I'm using a French star tip number 8 today. We're gonna add dollops of cream on top. And I top my cake off with my coffee caramel macarons. I have a separate video recipe for these. I will include it down in the video description box below. Also added a little bit of chopped hazelnuts. These are chocolate covered coffee beans. And lastly, we're going to add this gorgeous golden crown right on top. All right, and now for the best part, time to cut into this cake. I'm going to take off this cake topper for when I'm going to slice into it. This is just so, so pretty. All right, grab a sharp knife. Wow, check that out. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? Stunning on the inside. I love all the layers of the meringue with the coffee cake. This is gonna taste so, so good. And that for you is Tatyana's Torte. Absolutely love how this all came together. I had the idea to make my own cake a couple months ago. I just thought, you know what? Why not bring together all the different elements that I enjoy from a bunch of different cakes, and then of course my macarons, and put together a cake, and it turned out so, so good. Cannot wait to dig in and enjoy. And my slice has toppled over. Looks so, so good. I'm gonna grab a little bit of everything, the buttercream, the coffee cake, and some of that meringue. Guys, this cake is epic. Not only is it so, so beautiful, but it's so delicious, like out of this world. I love the combination of the coffee cake. It's really moist and delicate with the chewy, crunchy meringue on the inside. It's so delicious. I love the little bit of that hazelnut flavor you have in there, and that buttercream. Oh my goodness, that buttercream is so, so good. You guys are gonna love everything about this cake. Now I know it takes a little bit of time to make, but it is so worth the effort if you need a special cake for a very special occasion. I'm gonna have all the recipes down in that video description box for you guys. I'm gonna have a link for where you could purchase this crown online, links to all my other videos that I used and incorporated into this cake. I hope you guys enjoy it, and if you do make it, I would love to see your creation. You could send me your pictures on Facebook and on Instagram. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. After I finished frosting my cake, I put it into the refrigerator for about 20 minutes, and now I'm gonna transfer it to a cake stand. I get this question so often, how do I do it? So I usually grab a long serrated knife, just the one that I used for cutting off the top, and then I grab a flat spatula, and I kind of go around the cake first and release it from the stand. Oh, and this one is really easy and it's already moving. I'm just gonna slide the spatula underneath, and then we're gonna just quickly move it right over. All right, center it up as best as you can, and then pull out the knife. Voila, super easy.